In the following clip, we will cover how to correct a leaking tea spigot. When you have a leaking tea spigot, it's going to be a problem right in this area. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that the tea is removed from the canister. Second thing is remove the spigot. To remove this spigot, there is a wing nut on the back of the spigot housing. You want to buy it, you want to turn this with your hand until it becomes loose. Sometimes you will need to use a set of pliers to free this up. Once it's free, the spigot may want to stick on. Simply pull it, it'll come loose. Next, to disassemble this, you will want to turn the lever housing away from the spigot housing. When there is a leaking tea dispenser, it's generally right in this area. It's one of two problems. This lever has become weak and will not push this spring forward enough to lock this gasket into the plastic housing, or there's a problem with this rubber gasket. The rubber gasket can become old and brittle if it's not cleaned on a daily basis. It also can become very dirty over time if it's not cleaned, and residue can build up. So the first thing we would want to do is clean this rubber gasket completely. To remove it, simply grab it, pull it off. It has a mounting head, it has a dimple inside. Those two simply snap together. So pull it off, clean this, scrub it, soak it in a solution provided by your chemical provider or coffee pot cleaner, either one, blue coffee pot cleaner. This will break down any built up tea residue on here. If it has been allowed to go for a long enough time without being cleaned and becomes old and brittle, this will need to be replaced. Second thing that can happen on this is the spring become weak or become collapsed. To repair this, it doesn't necessarily mean there needs to be a new spring. If this spring has become weak and needs to be stretched out, you must disassemble this further. Push that stem in, rotate the handle off. Once you rotate it off, this will come apart. You can stretch this spring out. Be careful not to stretch it too far. Stretch this spring out and it will provide new tension. To reassemble, insert the stem back in with the head at the small end of the spring. Small end of the spring up, like such. Push this back through. Reassemble the tea spigot handle back onto the housing. You have new tension. Place the gasket back on. Tighten back onto the housing. It's very important that you hand tighten only. If you hand tighten it only, you can always take it back apart with your hands. Replace the tea spigot back onto the tea canister by tightening the wing nut, hand tight. That covers a leaking tea spigot. On some model tea dispensers, there will be a handle in the back like such. This handle will have a rubber gasket around it to prevent the customer or operator from grabbing this and cutting their hands. If this has been damaged, to replace it, you simply want to very easily pull the rubber gasket out. This is what the gasket is protecting against, from sharp metal edges of the stainless canister. To replace this, you'd want to take a new part. Simply start with one corner, push this into the corner until it's seated, and begin to work the handle all the way around. There you go. This is a replacement of the handle gasket. Some model dispensers will have feet on the bottom. This protects the dispenser from scratching the surface of the counter. To replace this, there's a Phillips screwdriver in the middle. Simply untighten it. Remove the screw. The foot will come off easily. To replace is just simply reverse the process. Slide the foot on, place the Phillips screw inside, tighten snugly. This covers replacing a foot on a tea dispenser. In the following clip, we will cover troubleshooting brewing of weak tea. The first place you want to start when looking at weak tea brewed is the brew basket area. Every brew basket, regardless of what model, will have a screen in the center of the brew basket. The screen is very, very important because it has a certain diameter hole in the screen that restricts the flow of water into the dispenser. The reason this restriction is important is because the bed of tea leaves will be in the bottom of this basket. The faster the water goes through, the less solid solubles it will remove from the tea. The slower it goes through, or the longer the steep time, the more solid solubles will come out into the tea. If it's too fast, there's not enough solid solubles or flavor in the tea, thereby weak tea. This screen can become damaged over time, but more often can become missing. To remove a screen, you may need to use tools, or you can use your hands. Simply untighten this nut on the bottom. Some models are different, but they all follow the same pattern. Remove the screen. This is what the screen should look like. One screen, one nut. To replace it, simply seat the screen back into the brew basket in the hole that's there. Holding your finger on the screen, turn it over. Tighten the nut. I recommend hand tightening again so it's always easy to take back off when it's time to clean. The next item we will cover on brewing weak tea is checking the tea machine brew temperature. Tea should brew at 198 degrees or higher. In order to verify the temperature on a tea machine, you will need a mercury thermometer. Be careful in your operations that you're not using a meat thermometer, because they're very difficult to use and submerge in water. To check the temperature, you'll want to take 3 steps prior to checking the temperature. You want to remove the lid from the tea canister. You will want to ensure that you have an empty tea canister. And third, you will want to remove the spray head. Once you have done this, verify that your ready light is on, turn the machine on, hit the start button. You will wait for a hot water stream to come out from this spray head. Once that stream begins, you can then check the water temperature. Now that you see the stream, very careful. Remember that the water is very, very hot. You have to place the thermometer under the hot water stream and measure the temperature. Once you have checked your temperature, if you have determined that the temperature is lower than it should be, or there is no hot water, and the water is reading at room temperature, there are 2 things you as an operator can check. The first one is the adjustment of the thermostat on the unit itself. In order to ensure that a machine has been unplugged, please pull the male from the female receptacle. Once the machine has been unplugged, you will want to check the front of the unit to make sure that there is no power. You may even attempt to brew. If there is no power, you will have no brewing capability, nor will you have any lights. Okay. In order to locate a thermostat on any Model T machine, it's generally found in 2 locations: behind the front panel, beneath the brew basket, or below the top panel on the tea machine. To remove a panel, simply locate the screws that hold the panel and back them out. Once you have removed the 2 screws, simply pull the panel away from the machine. Okay, you cut. On some Model T machines, rather than having a mechanical thermostat, some will have a digital thermostat. You will adjust those up and down the same as you would a mechanical. On this unit, you will see a thermostat temperature knob located here. All models will have a thermostat. All models will have a knob to adjust that thermostat. Generally, they are somewhere close to maxed out because they are preset from the factory. You want to ensure that the tea machine thermostat is not turned off. To ensure this, if you turn it counterclockwise until you hear a click, that ensures that it's off. Then you want to turn it back clockwise until you hear another click. This will ensure that the thermostat is on. All thermostats have a directional arrow on it showing which way is on, which way is off. Determine that the thermostat is on, wait to see if it heats. The next step would be checking the high limit. Caution: before checking the high limit, ensure that the unit is unplugged and has no power to the front or lights of the unit. A high limit is the following type device. It is simply a fuse that can be broken if the machine heats for too long or too hot. All models will have the high limit located somewhere on the top of the tank area. Remove the lid of the machine so that you can see the top of the tank area, and you should be able to locate this. It will have one wire coming in one side and another wire going out of the other side. Here is an example of an older style high limit that has a push reset button. If your unit has this reset button, you can push that button in and sometimes it will reset the unit, similar to a ground fault indicator on a plug-in. If it does not have this push button and the high limit is not allowing the machine to heat, you will have to replace this part. The next item we will cover in brewing weak tea is the spray head and spray tube area. Underneath the basket, brew basket, remove it, there is a spray head disc that looks like this. This is the spray head disc. Over time, if not cleaned daily, this disc can have calcium buildup begin to cover these holes. Sometimes it will look like the hole is still there, but there's a line of calcium around the outer edge of that hole which is restricting the water flow. The reason the restriction of the water flow is so important in the right strength of brewing tea is if this is restricted and it does not give a good flow or good shower pattern, the water, when it's supposed to be showering out, will come down in a straight stream and it will not steep or cover all of the tea in the basket. It will begin to brew in one part of the tea in the filter in the basket and not spread out across the entire basket. To clean this or repair this problem, simply take a small screwdriver and just ream out each one of these holes back to their original factory size, removing the hard water deposits. On the underside of this, there's the hole that you can, where the water comes into the spray head, where you can see inside the spray head. Check to make sure there's not calcium deposits built up inside this spray head. If there is, you can soak this in a CLR or a solution provided by your chemical provider. Please consult with your chemical provider before using any cleaning solutions on any products. The next area we'll cover on correcting weak tea is the spray head tube. Once the spray head has been removed from the underside of the machine, there is an inlet tube that the water will come into the spray head. You will need a deliming spring. Simply insert this into the tube, push it all the way up until there's about 6 inches left. You want to vigorously run this deliming spring up and down. Once that step is complete, you have a clean deliming tube. The reason this tube is so important, if there is calcium deposits in there that are restricting the flow, it will do the same action as a clogged spray head. There will not be enough water pressure, it will not give a good shower pattern inside this basket, it will not shower correctly, it will drizzle straight down, it will not saturate all the tea, you'll get weak tea, you won't have enough flavor inside your finished product. The next item that we will cover on brewing weak tea is the timer setting for the hot water that comes out of the spray head. Regardless of which model tea machine you're using, there will be a timer area similar to this. There will generally be 2 timers. One will be for a hot water concentrate, the other will be for a cold water dilution. Generally you will see the words concentrate and dilution. Dilution is the amount of cold water that will come out of a tube similar to this that will fill up the tea dispenser. The concentrate is the hot water that comes through the brew basket spray head area. This determines the flavor, the strength of flavor of your brewed tea. In order to increase or decrease, simply add or subtract more minutes on the timer. Caution, minor adjustments can make major finished adjustments in the brewing process. Make minor adjustments, Test it. If you need to adjust more, make minor adjustments again and test it again. Concentrate is hot, dilution is cold. If you have weak brewing tea, you may not have enough hot concentrate coming through the spray head area, thereby not providing enough flavor. Simply increase this timer until you have the desired flavor, or it's at the recommended setting inside the brew basket. When you are adjusting the concentrate in the basket, you want to have the water crest right at this break in the contour of the basket, right here. If you go over this, the basket can overflow, spilling hot water over the sides of the basket.